Well, we just got this bike for free. It's a 1991 Vulcan 1200. The seller stated that there is no way this thing will run. He said it would take a miracle. He said that this thing's been sitting for 15 years. Oh, that just broke. So there's definitely oil in the bike. Make sure that doesn't hit the frame anywhere. Got negative there. Turn the key. Oh, it lit up. See if the start button works. New. Ooh. Oh yeah, she's a little crusty in there. Nothing. Let's try this setting. Oh, that's spark. Oh yeah, almost 150. Got zero compression on the rear cylinder. I don't think there's any way to take this carb out. I've been working on this for like an hour. Oh, jeez. This thing will not fire up. We're back with the beast, the 1991 Kawasaki Vulcan 1500. If you guys watched the recap in the beginning of the video, you'd see that we picked this thing up for free from an older guy who I guess had it for 15 plus years sitting in his garage. So this thing hasn't started in over 15 years. And he said it probably wouldn't. He said it was pretty beat up. And looking over this thing when we first got it, we saw that all the connectors were basically disintegrating. I think this thing sat out in the sun for a very, very long time. However, the mileage is really low at 6,500 miles. So that kind of gave me hope. But we started diagnosing it. We hooked up a jumper to it. The thing did light up. Neutral light came on, but the starter was not working. We went down to the solenoid, took that off. It was horrible. So we were able to cross the terminals on the solenoid with a screwdriver to get this thing to turn over. And cranked pretty good. We checked compression in the front cylinder. We were getting 150 in the front, which was awesome. And then in the rear, we were getting zero, absolutely nothing. So that was not good. We were getting spark on all cylinders eventually. We played around with the connectors here, tried a different jumper pack, and we finally were able to get spark, which looked pretty nice and blue. So good spark on all cylinders. We then went to the carb. That was horrible to get out, but we finally got it out and cleaned up. Basically tar in there from sitting so long. So that was horrible. Put everything back together and actually attempted to start this thing up for the first time, and it would not go. It's backfiring through the carb. Sounds like timing's off. So we kind of left it there last video. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get this thing to run. Today's goal is to hopefully get this one up, running and driving by the end of the video. I read all the comments on this video and I learned a lot about this bike. A lot of you guys have actually owned one similar or the exact same bike and gave me some tips and tricks. So we're gonna go through those first and then we'll start diagnosing this bike. So the first thing we learned about this bike is that there's actually a decompression mechanism on the cam in the rear and the front cylinder. The front cylinder, I guess, with the decompression working, is only supposed to have like 80 PSI. The rear is supposed to have like 125. So we are really high in the front and really low in the rear. So I don't know if the decompression mechanism is stuck in the rear, possibly causing zero compression. We were thinking maybe the valves last video. So we were actually planning on adjusting the valves last video because I thought maybe that's why we had low compression in the rear cylinder. But in order to take the valve cover off, you have to drop the whole engine out of the frame, which really sucks. And that leads me to the next point, that this thing actually has hydraulic valve adjusters. So they're adjusted automatically based on the oil pressure from the engine. So as this thing is running, it pumps in oil to the adjuster and it automatically sets that valve lash to zero, so you never have to adjust them. The only way they become out of spec is if it sits for a very long time and all the oil seeps out of the adjuster and it can't keep that pressure in there. So I'm thinking maybe that could be a culprit as well, causing low compression in the rear cylinder. But we're gonna look at everything today. We actually got a little camera to look in this rear cylinder just to make sure there's no hole in the piston or anything like that. So I think where we're gonna start today is by checking for spark and compression again. I'm hoping that maybe by turning this engine over so many times trying to start it, maybe we freed up something in the decompression mechanism up here. Just gonna confirm we still have spark here. So put some of these plugs back in. So this end can go here. Hard to push in. One end. And this peg here. Alright, now we've got a button we can push instead of crossing the terminals with a screwdriver to start this thing. Go, key on. And then we can hit the button. We should have spark here. Great spark there. So go right here. Good spark. Great spark. Really good spark. So we do in fact have good spark. All right, let's see if compression changed at all. Really hoping it went up. If not, we'll have to look into it a little bit more. Open. Compression jumped up to 200 on the rear. That is awesome. So, I think the decompression mechanism was not working. We're up to 200 PSI, which is very high. I don't know if the decompression mechanism is now not working at all to where it's stuck open, but at least we have compression now. That's awesome. We're gonna zero this out and try it one more time. That decompression mechanism probably isn't working at all now because we have a ton of compression. This thing shouldn't be going above 150. The starter could barely turn it over. Jeez. Yeah, 200 PSI. That's crazy. Let's just see what the front has for fun. So somehow we gain compression in the rear. Let's see if we have it in the front now. This is really weird, isn't it? Again, throttle open. Yeah, looks pretty good. What did we get? Almost 200 PSI. Wow. So we're pretty even in the front and the rear. Awesome. So somehow we gain compression in the rear. Not sure how. I'm thinking maybe the decompression mechanism finally came loose. But that is awesome. So good compression in both cylinders now. All right, we've got this camera hooked up to the phone. I'm just gonna stick this down. See what this looks like in here. There's the piston. Let's see. Cylinder wall still has the cross hatches on there. See that? There's the top of the piston there. It's hard to get down these cylinders with it. There's the other spark plug up there. The cylinder wall looks good, doesn't look scratched up or anything. From what I can see, it's a little tricky to get the camera down there at a good angle. See, there's the other plug right there. Cylinder wall. And we've got 200 psi, so we should have good compression there. Alright, so it's a little tricky to see anything, but let's look down this one. I mean, you can't really see much of anything. The angle it's at is not great. Yeah, there's crosshatches still on the cylinder wall though, look at that. I don't see any scratches at all either. Alright, we have spark on both cylinders, gas going to both cylinders, and now compression on both cylinders. And this thing won't fire, so something's going on. I'm wondering if the compression is too high to turn this thing over fast enough with the plugs in. So what we're going to do is put 3 plugs in. We're going to see if we have spark when we try to turn this thing over. Maybe the engine's not spinning fast enough with the amount of compression it has to get spark. So this one goes over here. Now we're going to try turning over the engine with all the plugs in to see if we still get spark here. I'm thinking maybe we're not getting spark because of that high compression. We'll see. And here we go. Getting spark. So you guys can see we were getting spark in that plug. Well, we now know we have spark even when we have compression on this engine. So the engine is spinning over fast enough to produce spark on both cylinders. So spark is not the issue. So now we know we have compression on both cylinders, spark on both cylinders, and we're dumping gas directly down the carb on both cylinders, and this thing will not fire. So that kind of tells me the only thing left to check would be timing. I'm thinking it's sparking at the wrong time. We saw that gas was shooting out of the carb when trying to fire this thing up. That would mean that the valves are opening at the wrong time and it's sparking at the wrong time, shooting that gas out of the carb. So that means it's sparking at the wrong time somehow, some way. And the only way it sparks at the wrong time is timing. So it could be engine timing or ignition timing. So for the engine, a possible problem could be the flywheel woodruff key sheared off. The flywheel would move, causing it to spark at the wrong time. The other possibility is that the cam chains are loose and they skipped a tooth on the cam gear, causing timing to be off. But that's pretty unlikely. I'm not hearing any engine noises or slapping of the cam chain when rotating the engine over. And these 2 cylinders have separate timing. So that would mean that both cam chains would have to be loose. Both cylinders aren't firing, which is weird. So timing would have to be off on both cylinders to not run at all. So I'm kind of leaning more towards the ignition timing. And we've seen this before in the past, where somebody has messed up the wires going to the coils. They reversed them. And that causes the engine to run 180 out. So it would cause this cylinder to spark when this one should be sparking. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing gas come out of the carb, shoot out of the carb, and that would mean that the valves are open and it's firing. So it's shooting out the carb when it shouldn't be. So I'm thinking ignition timing. So let's check that first, and then we'll check the other timing if we can. We might have to drop the engine to do that. All right, so the coils are down here underneath this cover. Not seeing any wires going to it. Here's a wire there. All right, let's see from the back side here. Alright, here's some wires going to it. Let's get a flashlight out here. Alright, that one's hooked up. That looks like the main connector from the harness. Then there's 3 yellow wires right there. And then there's a yellow and black wire here and a green and black. And those look like they're going to the 2 separate coils there. So if you look in here, you've got green and black. It looks like a yellow and black. And if we follow these wires down, oh my God, there's no way. That cannot be the problem. Look at this. Yellow and black is going to green and black, or green and white, is it? Green and yellow. It's green and white there. And then green and black is going to yellow and black. So I think those are messed up. Look at the yellow and black. It's hard to see in here. But it's going to the green. Green and white. And then this one, the yellow and black is going to the green. Look at that. I think those are messed up. No way. I don't know if that's right or not. No, it can't be. Shoot. That's not the problem. Because the connections can only go one way. Unless somebody made new connections. I don't think they did. Darn. I thought for sure that was going to be the problem. But as you can see, the connections are on there. You can see that has a male, that one has a female, so it can only go to one connection there. So that doesn't make any sense though. Why would the black and yellow be connected to the green and black, and the yellow and black be connected to the green and black? I don't get it. That doesn't make any sense. But that's how they had it. Alright, so I thought that was going to be the problem. Does not look like it is. Those connections are all stock on there, so we're still going to check the coil wires. I think these are actually going down to the kickstand. Because I'm seeing a black and yellow at the kickstand and a green and white at the kickstand, so I think those are the kickstand wires right there. And as you can see them moving in there when I move the wires from the kickstand. So I don't think those are the coil wires. Those look like the coil wires there. Got red and black, black, red and black, and black, and this is the longer wire going down. So that is most likely the correct one. Shoot. Thought for sure that was going to be the problem. It might be engine timing. Those wires look correct to me. Everything's connected. Right, according to the manual, our wiring is correct going to the plugs. So the coil that sits up higher, right here, goes to the front cylinder, and the coil pack that goes lower goes to the rear. And that's same with the one's over here. This one, the longer one, is going to the top coil here. You can see leads right to the top one, and the rear one is going to the bottom. So we are correct there. And then it said that the black and red and black go to the top coil, black and red and black and green go to the bottom. So our ignition timing should be spot on. That is not the problem. So I think what we're gonna do is try to fire this bike up again, just to kind of hear what it sounds like if it's popping out of both carbs, and kind of go from there. All right, we're gonna spray gas directly down both carburetors here. Just see if it pops over at all. Same with this carb. Here we go. She did not want to go. It's having a hard time turning that engine over with all that compression. I don't think that decompression mechanism is working. All right, just took out the plug. Looks to be pretty wet. I can smell gas on it. So for some reason, it's not firing. You know, it's gotta be timing. We'll try putting some gas directly down the cylinder and try this again, but I'm thinking it's not sparking at the right time. All right, so all 4 plugs, we took them out, they're all wet. They smell like gas, and this thing's still not firing. So we have compression, we've got gas actually on the plug, and we've got sparks, so it has to be timing. We're gonna go down to the flywheel, which I believe is over on this side, take off this cover, and check out that woodruff key. So if we line this up at top dead center for cylinder number 1, or the front cylinder, that piston should be at the top of the cylinder. If it's not, that'll tell us that the woodruff key is most likely sheared off. Same with the rear, we can line them up. And if that's on, we can check timing, which means we have to drop the whole engine. But let's just get this cover off first. Guessing that foot peg has to come off. Full cover can come off. Just like that. That's what the inside cover looks like. Alright. Now, the flywheel is underneath here. think that's all of them. Oh, there's one more here. Sounds hollow. Come on. Alright, there's the flywheel and the stator. So right here, you can see TR, which means that's top dead center for cylinder R, or rear cylinder, which would be the one right here. And then right here is TF. So the line right there is for top dead center, front cylinder. All right, now we're gonna turn over this flywheel until the TF lines up with a little notch right there. And when we do that, our piston should be at the top of the cylinder. And we should be at the top of the cylinder on the front cylinder. So TF right here, coming around. And if we take our flashlight and look down here, we should be able to see the piston. And as you can see, the piston's right at the top of the cylinder there. See it? And you can actually see it disappear when we move the flywheel. See that? Just disappeared. Let's quick check the other one here. TR. And we should be right at the top of the cylinder. And it is. It's right there. So our flywheel woodruff key is definitely not sheared off. So that's not the problem. I'm wondering if we can get to the top of the cam sprocket from here. That would be nice. Nope. Looks like the whole thing is one big cover here. Because I'm guessing that sprocket rides right there. Too bad they didn't make that a separate cover. We could have easily taken that off and checked the timing quick, but we can't check the timing unless we drop the engine, it looks like, unfortunately. So that is not real good. So it's definitely not the woodruff key. We threw a couple new plugs in there thinking maybe it was the plugs. I'll try it one more time here before we start tearing into it. Absolutely nothing. I don't get it. All right, we're gonna try going through the carb one more time before we drop this engine and tear into the engine, because that is a big job. Everything has to come off, engine has to drop down, then we can finally start working on it. But we're gonna tear into the carb one last time, check and make sure all the floats are opening, check everything, and then reinstall it and get some gas flowing to it. Hopefully it's just something with the carb that's either allowing too much fuel in or not enough. All right, we got the carbs out once again. We're gonna be splitting these two carbs apart. I guess there's like a float in here that we're supposed to clean that we didn't clean last video. So let's just try doing that. Get the screw out. A lot of these are stripped out, so it should be fun getting all these off. This one has to come off. This is for the choke. That's how that was in there. see if I can get to that one now. I think this is the last one on this side. And this carb can kind of come apart here. Let's see. There's a float in there, I can see it. Alright. So as you can see, she's a little dirty in there. Old gas in there. And here's the float. Oh, look at that. That needle is completely stuck. Haha. That definitely could have been the issue there. Let's see, how does this thing come out? I think you can just take that pin out like that. Float feels good. Check out that needle in there. Completely stuck. That is on there. Let me take out the little pin here. I want to wreck that. There we go. Well, there's the needle. It was stuck. It was clear, it was just stuck. So no gas could get to it. There we go. So we're going to clean that out really well. Alright, we're going to clean out this one first. Make sure that's all clear. Just clean that up a bit. There's just some sticky residue on the sides. Old gas. Probably why I was getting stuck in there. So I'll just stick a little sandpaper in there. Spin that around a little bit. Pretty gunked up in there. Just want to work on that and then we'll move on to the next one. Alright, now we can see that this needle is moving up and down with the float. That's what that's supposed to do. So now that lets in gas and closes off the gas. So perfect. Alright, so that's the one side. Here's the other float, I believe, right here. So we got to take off that side of the carb to get to the other side. Alright, and that needle was stuck as well. Look at that. So both of those were completely stuck in there. Alright, now this needle and float is no longer stuck. Looking good. So now gas can flow in. Alright, carburetors are back in. We got a gas line hooked up to it. Going to the pump. We're going to put the pump in the gas. We'll see if it sucks it into the carb. Alright, we got the pump hooked up. And I already sucked a bunch of gas in. The camera shut off for some reason. But the pump sucked all the gas that was in the cup into the carbs. So that was working. So now the carbs should have plenty of fuel going to them. Alright, carburetors are all cleaned out. We've got gas going to the actual float bowls now. Let's see if she fires up here. I don't think there's a whole lot of charge left to my jumper, so hopefully she fires right up. Here we go. Alright, we took one of the plugs out of the rear cylinder. I don't think it's spinning fast enough with both plugs in, so let's try it now. So that could be the whole problem. Maybe it's not sparking when we have both plugs in. Because the plugs are wet, it's getting fuel. You almost need a stronger battery. Alright, so we're kind of running into an issue. The starter doesn't have enough power to turn over the engine when both cylinders have 200 pounds of compression. The front cylinder should be 50 to 80 pounds of compression. The rear should be 90 to 150. They're way over that. They're both at 200. So we don't have a starter that can jump this thing properly and get enough spark to spark in the cylinders when the plugs are in. So I'm thinking the decompression mechanism's not working in either cylinder. So I'm guessing those decompression mechanisms are like locked up. So I think we're gonna start tearing down the whole bike and try to get this engine out of the frame. Zip these off quick and get done. There we go. Finally got that exhaust off. Thing is a tank, not extremely light. Alright, let's start working on the rest. Alright, the bolt here and the one you can see down here have to be hammered out. We got the bolt off already. Oh, look at that bolt. Got this one here. I think the whole engine is basically out. Got it on the jack here. We just have to lower it enough so we can get the valve covers off. It's basically all we have to do. So, alright. Big Allen's. That's all the way supported over there. This bar dropped off of it. That's out of the way. I don't know if this engine can come out now or what. Oh, I don't think so. Still in there, pretty good. Right, for the drive shaft, there's like a pin right here. You're supposed to push down. Nothing. There we go. Looks like that was working. We're getting pretty close here. Getting caught on something. Oh. Just a little further. Holding on by something here. This beast is heavy. Well, somebody in the comments said the engine was easy to take out. Yeah, I would not say that. Oh man, but she's out, so we can finally start digging into the top end here. Alright, that feels good to have that out. Let's start taking a look at the valve cover here. Alright, this cover comes off. Alright, got the rockers in here, springs there. Just gonna take out those springs here quick. Alright. So we're looking for the decompression mechanism. All right, now we've got all these cap bolts here that have to come off. Looks like 12 millimeter, possibly. Those have washers on them too. Last one. Held up by something. Finally. All right, all the rockers look good. Doesn't look too bad. All right, our decompression mechanism is right here. That looks like that's working. I believe. Springing back. Looks pretty good. Alright, definitely could be timing too. So we're going to go ahead and check the timing. We got to get the side cover off and then take a look at the sprocket marks on the cam here. But yeah, cam lobes look good. Oh, what the heck? It looks like the cam chain's nice and tight too. So I don't think it would have jumped time. I don't know. We'll check the timing next. The same. We can turn over this engine. And this is the front cylinder, so we're going to go to TF on the flywheel right there. So as you can see, we're at TF right there, lined up with the little notch right there. Now when we come up to the cam, we should see a line right there and a line right there, perfectly parallel to the surface of the heads. So timing is spot on. That looks good. And not a single issue with that. Cam chain's still nice and tight. Lobes are perfect. Decompression mechanism's working. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like a single issue, at least with the timing. Well, let's see if there's an issue with the other side here. All right. That cover off. Timing has to be off. I don't know. Got your two springs in here. Take those out. right, then we can start taking off all these bolts. Big boy is coming off. Washer. This impact is crazy. We'll see here. Am I missing a bolt? I don't think so. It's coming. There's oil coming out. Let's see. There's definitely oil getting to it. This piece is stuck in there. I mean, rockers all look good. Cam chain's really tight. Seems to be working. Let's turn over the engine here. Just see if that decompression mechanism is working here. Doesn't, there we go. So the little pin right here, the raised pin right there on the decompression mechanism, that's supposed to stay hard and not be pushed back down as it rotates over. And what that does is it pushes up on the rocker and then in turn pushes down in the valve, releasing compression. So we're turning this engine over to top dead center for the rear cylinder, which would be right here. The rear cylinder, this is RT lined up. Let's see if our cam's lined up properly. And it is. You can see the line right there. And the line right there parallel with the surface of the head. So somehow, some way, our timing is spot on. All right, we can check if we're 180 out by turning this engine over. We're going to start with the front cylinder here, so get this lined up. And we'll get it lined up to where it's supposed to be here. So front cylinder, lobes are pointing down. Now we're going to rotate the flywheel counterclockwise 270 degrees, and we should be spot on for timing with the rear. That's how you check that. So we can rotate this over until we get to the TR. Right there. Now, if the lobes are pointing down, we should be good. Yep, lobes pointing down. And line is there, line is there. So we are not 180 out. We are timed up perfectly. All right, let's take a closer look at these decompression mechanisms. Get the cam chain tensioner out here. Should pop right out of here. Well, I should be able to get this cam out. We're just gonna drop down the chain here. There we go. All right, looking at the cam here. So we're going to take off the decompression mechanism here. It said that if the weights are not smooth when rotating it like that, that you should replace it. If the spring is damaged or gone, you have to replace it. It feels pretty smooth to me. It gets caught up a little bit, but everything looks brand new. I mean, I don't see any problem with that. No scoring in there. I mean, that looks really good. It's not binding at all. I don't see any issues with that. I'm going to put it back in here. I just feel like it should... I mean, it comes up a little bit right there. When you push down, it comes up about that much. Is that normal? For some reason, we were getting 200 PSI. So another thing we can check is the hydraulic lash adjuster, which are these guys right here. We talked about these in the beginning of the video. So what these do is, as the engine runs, oil gets sucked into there and takes up the space between this little plunger here and a valve. So once the oil fills up, it gets rock solid and that plunger can't go back any further. And it takes up the space between the rocker and the valve automatically. So right now you can see some of these can push in a little bit and some of them are just stuck. So that one goes in really far. Let's see what these do. Look how far that one goes in. That one goes in just a little bit. So they're all different. These, that one pushes in just a little bit. That one goes in really far. This one doesn't go in at all. And that one doesn't go in at all. So these two are almost stuck, unless there's oil trapped inside. But the other case scenario is that those are not working properly. And what would happen is they're seeping oil out before it gets hard. And that way, when it pushes down on the valve to release that compression, it's just going up like that. See that? It pushes up and it's not actually getting hard, so it doesn't push that valve down all the way to release that compression. So I wonder if something's going on with that. All right, another thing we can quick check and test just to make sure it wasn't this is the pickup coils. So there's one right here and one right here, and you can see the plug-in for it right here. So what these do is signal the CDI when to spark. So if those are bad, it'll be sparking at the wrong time, or it just won't spark at all on that cylinder. So let's just check these. According to the manual, you want to go between the two leads. The top one is black and yellow and black. So we're going to test that one first. The bottom one is red and black and white. So according to the manual, you want to have resistance between 400 and 490 ohms. You're there. We're going to be doing the top one first. So yellow and black. Let's see what we get. You can see 436 ohms. That is between 400 and 490. So we're good there. That checks out. Now we're gonna be doing the second one. Red and black and red and white. You can see right here. So we get 435, and that is between 400 and 490 ohms. So our pickup coils are perfect. Let's take the starter out next. Maybe that was getting weak towards the end, and that's why it wasn't spinning over fast enough. I'm pretty sure it was due to the extremely high compression, but we'll see. Spins pretty smooth. All right, we're gonna ground out the starter and then see what it sounds like. So we want it to really spin fast here. Let's just see. Yeah, that sounds good. Does not sound sluggish at all. So starter sounds really good. All right, so I did a little research on the hydraulic adjusters here, and it looks like when you first take these out of the engine, they are supposed to be pretty rock solid. They're not supposed to move at all. Ours were pretty squishy. All of them were pretty squishy, see that? So my theory is that the decompression mechanism was actually working, but as it pushed up on the rocker here, this part would push down on the valve to open it, but that would squish down and the valve wouldn't open all the way. That's my theory. I think these adjusters are letting a little oil out and kind of seeping and not keeping the pressure. Because some of them were really squishy, some of them were really hard, which they're supposed to be really hard, and some of them were like a little bit squishy. So they were all different. But I'm thinking that's what happened, and that's why the engine had so much compression, which in turn, when you had the plugs in, made this thing turn over really slow, and I think we weren't producing spark when both cylinders were plugged up. So I think with one plugged up, we still got spark, but once we added the other plug to the cylinder, it was too much compression, and this was not sparking. Because we saw that in the beginning. We had the slower jumper on it, and it wasn't sparking at all. We added the faster jumper to it, and it was sparking. But as soon as we put the plugs in and tried to fire this thing up, it wouldn't fire, even though we were getting good compression, good spark and fuel. The plugs were completely wet. We know we were getting fuel, I think it just wasn't sparking. And that's due to the high compression, which was caused, I think, because of these adjusters here being squishy and not releasing compression in the engine. That is my theory. But yeah, everything else looked good. Timing was spot on, both ignition and the engine timing. So I don't think it was that. And I think maybe it was backfiring out of the carb because it would produce spark every once in a while, but not continuously. And that's why it wouldn't fire too. But all a theory, I don't know. Everything looked pretty decent in this engine. You know, we had 200 pounds of compression each cylinder. That's why I'm not tearing down the top end here further, because I know that the cylinders are fine. We took a camera, looked in there. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Leave your comments down below. What do you guys think? And what do you guys think I should do from here? Should I fill those lifters up with oil and test them out? Get this thing back together and try to fire it up? Or what do you guys think? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Let me know in the comments. But as of right now, this is where this bike sits. Engine's out of it, and this thing is in pieces. So it's gonna be a lot of work to get back in, and you know, I don't know if the lifters are the problem for sure or not. So if we do all that work and it's not the problem, we're back to square one. So kind of in a pickle here. I was hoping we could get this thing running and driving today, but it's gonna need a lot more work. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video, and until next time, we are out.